The state of North Carolina is more than twice as long as the distance between London and Paris. From soaring mountains through the foothills, the Piedmont coastal plains, to the pristine beaches, there are hundreds of towns and cities, each with unique stories to tell.
There's a place where you can love your neighbors, you love yourself, and everybody can get along.
Every North Carolina community has pride, and more than a few have real challenges.
The nearest grocery store is 18-20 miles away.
Main Street NC is a special series from the WUNC Politics podcast, telling the stories of communities across North Carolina in the words of the people who live there and reported by Capitol Bureau Chief Colin Campbell. Main Street NC, coming up after this.
Piles of sandbags roughly 3 feet high line the beach between the buildings of the 70-year-old Outer Banks Motel and the Atlantic Ocean here in Buxton. Billy Dillon operates the motel with his 97-year-old mother, Carol, who's owned it since it first opened in 1955. He says it's getting harder to fight off the Atlantic Ocean from overtaking the property, as it has with about 20 beach houses a few blocks south of the motel.
It's very expensive, I think. We probably spent over $100,000 last spring. Wow. And we need more. Mm-hmm. Just to kind of protect the property, because we didn't have those sandbags. I mean, there's nothing to stop it.
Dillon says his motel buildings are also protecting NC-12, the highway that connects the Outer Banks. During storms and extreme high tides, ocean overwash floods the road in front of the motel. Despite a major beach renourishment project here in 2022, there was hardly any beach to sit on in front of the motel's outer buildings when I stayed there in January. And the Dillons were still working to repair broken stairs and walkways from last year's storms. Billy says the shifting sands of Hatteras Island are a constant battle.
I mean, erosion has always been an issue, as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
I wasn't here in the 50s and 60s, but they talk like there was, 500 feet of beach then. I'd never seen it that big. I remember when I was little, though, you would burn your bottom of your feet walking to the water. That's how much beach you had to go through. And now there's no beach.
The erosion is even worse on other portions of Buxton's oceanfront. Brian Harris with the Buxton Civic Association shows me where houses began to collapse last fall. More homes remain in the water, even at low tide.
So the houses from here going north, I guess?
Yeah, all 17 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, you see this one right here, it's missing 5 posts. Mm-hmm. None of the oceanfront homes have electricity right now.
Yeah, so they're all cut off from utilities.
Yeah, all the utilities, all electric, all septics, have all been compromised. So they're moving them back, like move this one back right here. You can see the new post. Mm-hmm. That guy right there with the slanted roof got moved back. There's 4 more that are getting moved back, but I mean, there's 2 or 3 of them that are in the ocean now that's just, there's point of no return.
Just a few days after my trip to Buxton, several more of the homes he pointed out fell into the ocean during a winter storm. One collapse was captured on video posted by the Island Free Press.
There it goes. Whoa.
Buxton residents say the rapid erosion began at a former Navy facility used during the Cold War to monitor submarines. The Navy built 3 jetties to protect the site, but they weren't maintained after the Navy left in the 1980s. As the jetties deteriorated, beach erosion exposed some underground fuel storage tanks and leaked contamination into the sand and water. When the contamination was discovered in 2023, the Army Corps of Engineers closed the beach access and began a cleanup process that's still underway. But as they worked to clean up the mess, the beach continued to erode rapidly and began to claim houses last fall. The Army Corps of Engineers plans to repair the jetties later this year, and Dare County is planning a beach renourishment project, but the fix will be too late for many homes. And it won't necessarily be a long-term fix. Laura Moore is a UNC Chapel Hill professor who leads the university's Coastal Environmental Change Lab.
There's the possibility that if the groins had been maintained or if more sand could have been placed more frequently, that erosion might have been slowed down. But there really is no way to permanently counter or offset the high rates of erosion that Buxton and Rodanthe are facing, unfortunately. There really is not a permanent solution to this type of situation.
Instead, Moore says communities like Buxton will eventually have to reconsider where it puts homes and buildings. She thinks Hatteras Island is among the first of many beach communities that will experience this kind of erosion.
Adapting our building, look where we build and how we build, and relocating to less vulnerable areas will ultimately be, it's not a popular thing to say, but that's really ultimately the only option we will have in the end.
For now, life in Buxton for year-round residents and tourists goes on outside the damaged beach area. The famous Cape Hatteras Lighthouse is surrounded by scaffolding for a major restoration project, and the visitor center is getting new landscaping and fencing. Its beach access at Cape Point remains open.
Hey! Good morning!
After walking around the lighthouse, I stopped for a treat at Buxton's popular Orange Blossom Bakery and Cafe. They're best known for a massive pastry called an apple ugly.
So what exactly are the apple uglies?
So the apple uglies, it's apple cinnamon sugar with a little bit of apple pie filling. We roll it up in a donut dough, deep fried, and dip it in a sugary glaze. And this is our chocolate, so that's just an apple ugly drizzled in chocolate.
Okay.
In the summertime, long lines form at the Orange Blossom every morning. But many Buxton businesses are worried that this summer could bring fewer tourists, both from having fewer oceanfront houses for rent and from national headlines about the collapsing houses that are causing some visitors to vacation elsewhere. Back at the Outer Banks Motel, Billy Dillon is concerned what the future holds for the family business, and he's already added 20 rental homes in the village inland from the beach.
I'm worried about it, but I mean, we just keep moving forward and fighting to keep it going. Mm-hmm. That's all we can do.
The Buxton Civic Association includes business owners, residents, and others fighting for the resources needed to combat the erosion. I sat down with its leaders to hear more about where things stand. Heather Jennette is the president of the Buxton Civic Association, and Brian Harris is the vice president of the Buxton Civic Association, both involved in all the issues here in the Buxton area. Thanks so much for speaking with me.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming down.
So to start off, tell me a little bit about how the Buxton Civic Association got started. I know this is a fairly new organization for this community.
The Buxton Fuds was definitely brought this momentum. Was our initial momentum. It was the catalyst for everything.
Yeah, so the cleanup of the Navy site was sort of the main issue that brought people together.
That was the kickoff, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I had joked or, haphazardly said to my husband for years, like, maybe when our youngest gets in school, I can't believe that we don't have this going on. And then when all that was exposed and, I live over here in the woods, I'm going to be honest that I was kind of unaware. And so Brian kind of lit the fire and said, this has to happen now. And so we jumped in.
And some of the challenges, this part of Dare County is totally unincorporated, so there's no mayor, there's no town council that you can go to as a sort of spokes vehicle for the
inside of a national park at that too. So we're unincorporated village inside of a national park, which is definitely a rarity anywhere in the U.S. I don't think there's any other national parks that actually hold villages inside the national parks.
So it sometimes feels or felt like there was a very large kitchen with a lot of cooks that we couldn't really talk to.
Yeah, so there's not a central sort of point of contact when there's a problem to try to be the person, the spear to kind of address the issue.
No, yeah.
Well, looking at the more recent erosion that caused the home collapses, what do you see as sort of the root causes of this erosion that started with the Navy facility and then has sort of moved up the beach to the residential areas over the last year?
Yeah, the collapsing, the degradation of the jetties over the last 25 years since they moved the lighthouse definitely has played a big picture in all of this.
And they held their own just long enough, and then once you saw the big sections collapsing, failing, it not only no longer did its job, it started to do damage because it, instead of decreasing and holding sand, it kind of was a bottleneck and accelerated the force at which it was moving in the other way. And increase the rate of erosion.
You saw today where that line is just cut right through. I mean, the jetties, it's like the coastline has reformed basically as if they had never existed. So the coastline is straightened out, and that new coastline just happens to go right through the heart of the Buxton oceanfront.
Yeah, so those houses were all built with the sort of assumption of the coastline being what it was as the result of the jetties, and then once you lose the jetties, then suddenly all that protection, all that sand starts to go away
we lost
quickly.
140 feet of erosion, and a lot of that, the vertical erosion, it wasn't even something I pointed out on our walk today, but there's certain spots where we lost 15 feet high of vertical, vertical erosion.
Even with sea level rise, even with global warming, nobody's saying that those things aren't happening, but that was not a natural rate. That was the result of there was another factor.
Another catalyst.
So this is sort of erosion that might have happened naturally over time because of the other factors, but happened much, much, much more
It was
rapidly.
accelerated. Yeah.
So when you do have these house collapses, how difficult is the debris cleanup, and how long does it typically take to get the beach back to a point where people can use it?
I mean, you saw it this morning.
Still not done.
Yeah.
It goes back to the cooks in the kitchen. Like, whose job is it? Is it the homeowner's job? Can you prove that that's their debris when you have 7 fall at once? Is it the county's job?
15.
Is it the Park Service's job? Is it just DOT?
And then how much of it now is sitting at that low tide mark in the ocean that we can't even get equipment really to it? We're going to have to build a beach to excavate underneath what's there. The jetties, I say a lot of the storm surge that we saw, a lot of the debris got pushed in back farther back into the roads. But I think we'll be digging up forks and knives and silverware 100 years from now. They're going to be finding them.
Because these houses are still
the lost
full
colony of Buxton.
All their contents, a lot of times, it's not like someone's had the time to sort of strip out all the
350,000.
No, I mean, what
household
were
items
that we
are in
saw
every
out
house.
there? My kids were like, "Look, it's a chess set." I think that it's missing just the queen, or that's the contents of their pantry. Their refrigerators aren't even empty.
I think that was the hardest part of watching the houses fall for me. It wasn't so much the houses. Living by the ocean, we know that stuff could happen anytime. It was the fact that we knew that they were going to collapse, and all the furniture, all the furnishings, all the windows, everything was still in there. Everything underneath the kitchen sink. Everything in there is now in the ocean. The contractors, Barry Crum, he's moved to several of the houses. He's going to move 4 more, but there's only so much that we're going to be able to get.
And these people, they catch a lot of flack for not being proactive. Why didn't you move it? Why didn't you empty it out? Why, because the system's not set up to support that. Insurance is reactive. Not everybody who happens to own an oceanfront home paid cash for it, or doesn't still have a mortgage on it, or isn't depending on the rental income. It wasn't just this easy thing to go clear it out or move it or, take it down in a controlled fashion, because the resources don't support that.
Yeah, for the folks that are moving it back, are they pretty much having to pay out of pocket, and insurance is only
They're all paying out of
post?
pocket.
Insurance is not.
They're not. There's no reimbursement.
There's
from
grants,
the insurance companies.
but they're
few and far between. And
they're
everything.
mostly not applicable to here, because they only allow you to move it to an area that's X flood zone or X amount above, the sea level, and it turns out like our entire island is not that. So that's if they're able to find a property, which is limited here. Can they pay for it? Do they have a mortgage on the home they had? Because are they going to be able to get a second one for the lot? It's a mess.
Yeah, with the cleanup efforts, I know there's been some volunteer stuff that y'all have been involved in. Is that a piece of the puzzle, or with volunteer crews coming out, or at a certain point you have so much debris, so many houses going down that there's just not manpower of people who are willing to just come out of the beach on their day off?
I hope that never happens again.
Yeah.
That many at once.
Yeah.
It's just.
We didn't really have a choice but to get involved. If it would have been 1 or 2 houses, I think the first house that fell, the owner took care of everything on their own. But when we had 4 or 5, and it was just old
and that
White
was
House
the same
Road,
thing, to give credit to the county. It's not necessarily their role either, but when you have an event that catastrophic where so many fall, they did step in. They hired crews, they supplied, the rollaway dumpsters. And that's not something I think that they would necessarily do if you see a single house fall. But in an event like we experienced twice this fall, everybody's kind of making it up as they go along and doing the best they can.
And the homeowners that lost homes were all great too. I mean, we had 2 or 3. There was 3 contractors, local contractors, that used their equipment. I mean, as soon as those houses started falling, the homeowners stepped up right away, and they secured contracts with the contractors. And that was the big thing. The contractors down here, it's we spend 2 weeks cleaning it up. Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to make this commitment to get the funding, to get paid? So it was like Heather said, I hope it's something that we don't go through anytime soon or ever again.
And on the other side of the paid thing, the volunteer effort was amazing.
Yeah.
When we coordinated the cleanup day as the Civic Association, that was the type of event that I wanted my kids to see, that reminds you why you live here, why you go through this, why you take this gamble, why this community is what it is. And not even the people that live here, just the people that love it here. We had families drive in from Salisbury. They weren't even staying the night. They heard about it. They drove in. They showed up. I've got my gloves. He's got a chainsaw. Where can we go?
Yeah.
For no other reason than...
We were expecting 40 to 50 people is what we were hoping for, and it was well over 200 showed up. North Carolina Beach Buggy Association, they do a lot of volunteer work on cleaning up the beaches. They were instrumental. And then we have the Cape Hatteras United Methodist Men, the Baptist church down here. They do a lot of work elsewhere. So we had a good group of volunteers. We had it, after the second time, we kind of have it down to a science now, but it's not something that Heather or any of us really want to initiate. Hopefully we don't have to bring it back up again.
So is there any sense for, other than the jetty, is there anything that could have been done to prevent the loss of homes other than moving them for the folks that had the resources to do that?
It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I
How
think,
far back? Like, in theory, yes, there's much more technologically sound, environmentally sound
the
methods.
wave breaks, the offshore structures, some of that would knock the wave surge down, but the water's coming. I think for me the hardest part was knowing where we were in August to get that beach nourishment sped up. We got the county and the Park Service and the state to finally agree on repairing the jetty, which hasn't happened in 50 years, and it was just a little bit of karma in life. Just we finally get everything squared up, and then here we are. It's just we were too late.
It felt like, could we hold our breath long enough? Could we get through this winter? Was there any way we somehow had an unheard of, like last winter, that was,
quiet,
not like this one? Mm-hmm. Could it possibly, because we knew that there were some things coming, hopefully this spring, and it felt like getting so close, and then having such a hit like that was just devastating.
Yeah. With the status of the jetty, I mean, how soon does that work begin, as far as you can tell from the various government entities that have to be involved in that project?
The Army Corps of Engineers that went through the public period closed December 20th, a 30-day comments. And then there was another 30-day grace period for something. I mean, the contract should be awarded with, hopefully in the next week or two.
The hope is late spring, early summer, kind of in conjunction with the beach nourishment. They want to get past the winter season, but before the hurricane season. Got turtle nesting to consider, and habitat, and we're in an area where there's so many
and that whole
extraneous
beachfront
factors.
Got surveyed for the beach nourishment, which is now after losing 140 feet, they're back to square one. So we're not sure. They very well could be doing the jetty and the beach nourishment at the same time. Maybe the jetty first. They're coastal science engineering. Everybody's really scratching their heads on this. We're in uncharted waters all around in Buxton right now. So.
Yeah, and outside of that, are there other sort of solutions that you guys see as needed? We talked earlier about the state's limitations on building kind of jetty and hardened structures, protect the coastline, and do you need legislation to get to where you could potentially do more of that?
Yeah, and that's, the hardened structures topic is a very heated debate across the state of North Carolina. But, North Carolina, there's still several different. It still has to be approved by the Army Corps of Engineers. It still has to go through the state. It still has to go through all the county stuff. I think the hardened structures law will probably be gone. I don't think there will be a hardened structures law next year. I think the General Assembly this year. I think it's going to be gone. Coastal Resource Commission. I mean, everybody understands where everybody is right now, and it's.
That really has to be kind of the first step before you can even go into what are these other potentially better, more sustainable, longer term, the things that are out there. Nobody's going to spend a bunch of time or money looking at whether that works here when you have this just total ban. So I think until that is addressed, I think that's the first thing. The only reason we keep having this conversation about the jetty, nobody's saying that's perfect or that's, the ideal solution, but it's a loophole and we're grandfathered in, and that's something that we can do now. It's a stop the bleeding until you find out how to fix the problem.
And they were already there. I mean, the footprint of the jetties, it's not going to get worse. It's not going to make things, it didn't keep sand from going down to Hatteras Village and some of the other things that that you are concerned. There's really nothing south of Buxton. It's only west. If you look at a map, I mean, just with a 90-degree bend, it's the converging of the two currents. It's just Buxton's a very unique spot with the way the sand flows along the coast from both directions.
What's been the response from elected officials? I mean, you guys are kind of in some ways isolated from the rest of the state geographically, but are you getting the support you need from the county, from state legislators, from others that need to have a role in getting these solutions moving? Yeah,
I mean, we worked with Dare County from the get-go. That's who we went to, and we worked right with them, and then that led to the state, and then, I'm in D.C., Department of Interior. It's been great to work with everybody.
It feels miles from where it was 18 months ago.
Yeah.
We went to Wilmington and did a presentation that started, we were asked to come or present on the FUD site. And in the period of time between when we submitted the abstract and when the actual presentation took place, so much had happened in a positive direction with that we kind of pivoted to, here's the history of this, but what have we learned? It's that we have to stabilize this beach. And even down there, it just saying it like we need a jetty was almost laughed at. And then 6 months later, we were having real conversations about the plans to make it happen. So I think it's been...
Yeah, Senator Hannick, he's been great. He's been a big supporter. I mean, he was at our very first public meeting when this all started. The county, county manager Bobby Alton, Woodard, the chairman, the board. They've all been very supportive. We've had nothing but, I got nothing but good things to say about all of them. There was definitely times where it was kind of falling on deaf ears a little bit, but we were just persistent with everything.
And nothing's more frustrating than the speed at which government anything happens.
Yeah.
But I feel like for the long game, there's progress.
I know the collapsing homes issue has drawn a lot of the attention and national headlines, but how does the erosion impact the day-to-day ability of Buxton residents and visitors to be able to enjoy the beach area and sustain a tourism economy that powers this area?
You saw what it looked like today.
If you can't get through to Buxton, you're not getting anywhere south of it either. How many days did our kids miss of school the first month?
I think it was almost 15.
And that's not normal. It's not been normal, that it takes a nothing blow, a nothing weather event, and that section of highway is impassable. So that's impacting kids getting to school. It's impacting the flow of goods and services. I work in healthcare. It's impacting our ability to take care of people, get them off the island if they need to go. It's a problem.
And it's opened a great deal of doors, not just for Buxton, but for the issues along 12.
I wanted to talk that because that's for the bigger issue for the entire, Hatteras Island area is what do you do about 12 to avoid having it be offline so much of the time?
So, we're working with, we kind of teamed up with the Ocracoke Access Alliance because they're working on stabilization over there. Coming into Hatteras Village is also now is one of the hot spots along with Pea Island. So it's, I hate to say it, but all the bad press has actually been it's been a real, there is a little silver lining on all of it. It's opened up a lot of doors for us, not just in North Carolina. I did go to the Council of State. We've had some good conversations with Josh Stein, with Governor Stein, and then we're in the door in the Department of Interior, like we've never been before with Cape Hatteras National Seashore.
And I don't know if that would have unfortunately happened without such coverage of the homes falling.
Yeah.
Do you have a sense for with 12 sort of what the potential solutions look like? Is it building bridges over the sections where it washes out most frequently, or are there other things that could potentially address the issue of having the road wash out to the degree that it does?
Woods Hole Institute's been down here with Harvard Oceanography Department, and they're testing with the Army Corps of Engineers wave breaks, offshore wave breaks. It would be, they're anchored off the coast that would just knock down the swell. I think we're looking at reef balls, wave breaks. The bridges are coming. We need to elevate. But
it's got to be multifaceted.
You
have to do both. Are there some sections where absolutely it would make sense to have an elevated road or a bridge? Sure. But if that's your only plan and you don't do something to stabilize the shoreline, you are then building the bridge to nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you just have another section that washes out below wherever you build the bridge.
Yeah.
And I guess some of that is just, it sounds like you're in a better position now with getting the sort of the political muscle to get the funding and resources to kind of look at doing these projects and then figuring out how do you pay for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. The Great American Outdoor Act is one source of funding with the Department of Interior. It's America's 250th anniversary. They're looking at this. We head to D.C. next month, or actually in March. The ASBPA, the American Shoreline Beach Preservation Association, they've been around 100 years. When we go to that summit, it's the coastal summit. It's in D.C. and the city of Honolulu is there. Los Angeles is there with their beach planner. It's everyone across the country.
We're trying to put this to a wider audience, to people who have done it, who know how to gather the resources, who know how to get the legislation moving, the people who have done it before successfully. Let's get in a room with them.
Yeah, the engineering is out there. North Carolina has just been reluctant to jump on board.
So as we get into the spring and summer season coming up, is there worry that tourism numbers in this area could be affected both by the loss of some of the houses, the fact that the beach is not in the condition that you want it to be in? Are we looking at a worse than normal tourism season this year, I guess?
Yeah, without a doubt. There's no way that it's not going to affect the tourist season this summer. Just walking on that beach, I can't see any family staying in Buxton and walking their kids down to the beach every day, 7 days a week. There's just too much stuff in the water. Once we get close to the season, a lot of that stuff, Park Service does own that low tide to high tide mark, so they'll pull out what they can. And
there's still a lot, on this island to visit. We don't ever want to push the message, don't come here.
Yeah,
right? Because
but
there's a
expect
lot
that-
of beautiful beach. There's a lot of beautiful sound side. There's amazing things here, but in this eighth of a mile, we've got some work to do.
Yeah, so people who are staying in that particular vicinity are going to probably be driving a little ways to get to sort of the ideal.
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and a
beach
lot of those
location.
houses, I mean, we lost 15 houses, but I think there's 30 there that don't even have electricity right now. So,
So they're condemned. They're
a
not
lot of
rentable.
that left side of Old Lighthouse Road will not even be, I don't think they're going to be even.
And that's really the Buxton ocean front, you know, that's where you bend and you come back this way, and it's Park Service, and nobody owns, you know, there is no oceanfront housing on Buxton on the southern tip, you know, side of the point. So it hurts that area in particular.
One of our board members, Jeff Dawson, he's got right across the motel, he's got that little restaurant Fatties. So, I mean, with 15 houses, you figure 15 people in each house. I mean, it's, what are we, 250 people a week that aren't going to be
Yeah, you
Walking
didn't get that
up the
restaurant,
street.
aren't going to
or
walk
the
across the
shops,
street
yeah.
to get ice cream, aren't going to walk across the street to get a T-shirt, aren't going to need to go get bait, aren't going to need to get ice. It's definitely going to affect the Buxton economy. You know, Frisco, Avon, their beaches are great. You know, everything's fine on their end, but I think we're going to see the loss. You know, it's going to affect everybody on Hatteras.
Yeah, and I imagine some of it's true. There's going to be combating the perception that more of the beach is inaccessible than is actually the section that's offline. And
Yeah.
Yeah, and
people
that
can go
happened last summer. You know, another one of our board members is a realtor, and they had people cancel reservations. They had people go, I'm not sure I feel safe bringing my family there.
Yeah, I told you when we were walking on the beach. I mean, we had realtors in Duck even saying that there was people calling about houses in Duck and is my house, how close is it to the ocean? And it's just, people don't realize how big the Outer Banks really truly is. I mean, Hatteras in itself is 70 miles of shoreline. You know, there's probably another 40, 50 from Oregon Inlet to Duck.
Yeah, and so even with, you know, if this section's off limits, people can go other places, and it's still not going to be as
Yeah.
crowded as if you went to,
Yeah.
you
But
know,
it-
one of the more densely populated beach communities.
Yeah.
Myrtle Beach.
But we're definitely, it's definitely taking a toll right now. Especially the motels have been hit real hard on reservations for this upcoming summer.
Yeah, as far as the cleanup from the old Navy operation, is that making enough progress to where the hope is that that section of beach may be able to reopen at some point? That's been, I guess, offline for a couple of years now.
We'll see that. That closed in September of 23. So it's, you know, it's coming up on 3 years. Park Service held that meeting. That was March of 2024. I think some point within April, we'll see the first jetty. We'll see that parking lot. Not that parking lot because you can't access it anymore, but that beach, it's coming around. The oil, most of the oil, I think the oil contamination is probably 95% gone. There's still some stuff in the groundwater. But all the infrastructures, all the debris, all the concrete pipes, all the water pipes, asbestos pipes, fuel lines, all of that stuff has been removed. They've done a great job.
Yeah.
And they're committed to seeing it through. That's been, I think, what I've been most pleased with this go round, as opposed to, you know, they've come down a few times before and they've done a little bit and then they've disappeared again. And I think now having the RAB board and being, you know, in their words, probably the most prominent FUD site that they have, I think that there's some accountability and some, you know, we don't intend to let them off the hook until we have seen phase 2 and, you know, the long term, you know, are you sure that you really got it this time?
Yeah, they've been great. Colonel Sturgeon, I mean, that team in Savannah, they've done a complete flip-flop on, I mean, this just got kind of dropped on them. I mean, it was their ball. It was in their court all along, but Colonel Sturgeon, I mean, he took this job 3 months into it. He found out about the Buxton FUD site. So there was a learning curve. I mean, we had more information on the FUD site than they did when this all
Yeah, I
started.
mean, were they kind of caught off guard by it? I mean, this
Oh, there
there's an
was a
issue.
whole lot of not my problem.
Because ultimately, I mean, that area is right where the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse used to be, and they moved it because they knew that section of beach was eroding and that they were going to lose the lighthouse if they didn't move it when they did.
And the Navy, I mean, they put those jetties there for a reason. That reason wasn't protect the lighthouse; it was protect all the horrible stuff they had buried in the ground. And we're getting there. I mean, I think right now the FUD site is probably the least of my concerns.
Yeah. It's been a very interesting double-edged kind of thing, because had the jetties not failed and all that never eroded, I still wouldn't know all that was there.
No. And Park Service was they were 11 days away from signing off on that property to take full possession of that, to release the Army Corps engineers, the Coast Guard, the Navy, from all responsibility on that site. So, I mean, and then Department of Interior doesn't have any funding. I mean, we would have. I was worried when we opened and we started peeling back this onion. I thought that we were going to spend the next 10 years fighting with the Army Corps engineers. But once we got them aboard, once they came down here, Tom Tillis was absolutely instrumental in getting them. I can't remember the committee that he sits on in D.C., but they appoint the Brigadier General, the highest commanding officer in the Army Corps of Engineers. Tillis held up his appointment and made him come to Buxton. So I can't thank him enough. Yeah. You know.
Well, as we wrap up, obviously living out here has its challenges, but what is it about Buxton that makes you want to stay put and fight for this community and its long-term future?
Community is such an overused word, but you just don't find one better than ours. You don't find people who show up for each other the way that we do. And you really see it, like I mentioned, with the beach cleanup and after storms. I mean, I've lived here my entire life. I've seen it. I saw my friend's mom serving soup at the community building 2 days after she watched her house float into the Sound in 2003. And that is not something that you can just go somewhere else and find or make yourself a part of. We didn't all just decide to move out here to the beach. You know what I mean? There's history here. There's roots here. There's stuff that's worth preserving and cultivating and fighting for.
And Heather's father was, he was a county commissioner down here. My father-in-law was very involved, or grandfather was very involved with in Dare County politics too for a long time. And I mean, just talking to those guys, people don't volunteer like they used to, and I think that's just now just the cost of living, not just here. It's just, it's expensive everywhere. But that's just the output that we've had. And just so many people put so much into Hatteras in the last 30, 40 years that I just didn't want to see a lot of legacies just disappear. That's for me, it was the biggest thing.
Well, Heather Jennette is the president of the Buxton Civic Association. Brian Harris is the vice president. Thanks so much for taking the time.
No, I appreciate it. Come down anytime.
Thank you.
Main Street NC is a production of WUNC News. The podcast is edited by Dave DeWitt. You can see photos of Buxton from local photographer Daniel Pullen at our website, WUNC.org. And if you're in Buxton and Hatteras Island, you can listen to WUNC's news and information programming on the radio at 90.5 FM. I'm Colin Campbell. Thanks for listening.
Each story you hear on Planet Money starts with a question. What happens if we refund tariffs? Why are groceries so expensive? At NPR, we stand for your right to be curious, because the forces shaping our world can be hard to see. Follow NPR's Planet Money wherever you get your podcasts and start seeing how the economy really works.